Welcome to Group Text. There is no genre that today's guest can't shine brightly in. Morena Baccarin has appeared in such wide-ranging projects as the Deadpool films, the TV shows Homeland, Firefly, and Gotham, and even the latest Assassin's Creed Nexus video game. Her new movie, Fast Charlie, think Pulp Fiction meets Elmore Leonard Caper, is a gritty thriller set in the South about an aging hitman played by Pierce Brosnan and his target's ex-wife, Morena, who is the unlikely ally he needs to save his own skin. Fast Charlie is now in theaters and on demand. Morena, welcome to Group Text.
Hi, thank you so much.
I remember when you were on Fashion Police, which was ages ago, and it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. We
So
won't
let's
talk about how long ago that was.
Yeah, well, neither of us need to. How about that? Let's get right into the new movie, Fast Charlie, which is great. So explain to people what it's about.
Sure. It's sort of like, that last job that you always know the hitman is going to screw up his whole life, but it's always the last one, right?
Yeah.
So Pierce Brosnan is a hitman that's sort of wanting to get out of the business. And he's got this one final job. And of course, the guy that is studying under him to take over completely messes it up and botches the job. And then he has to come find me because I am his target's ex-wife. And the way they ended up killing the guy left nothing to be identified. And the only thing that's left is a butt tattoo. And so I'm the only one who knows about it. And I have to identify the body in order for him to check it off the list and say, see, I did the job I was supposed to do. Now I can get out. And of course, it all goes wrong. And we end up going on the run together. And I play Marcy, who is a taxidermist who just wants nothing else than to just be left alone at this point in her life.
Okay, well, there's a lot to unpack that you just said. So you're Marcy, and your relationship basically with one wrong guy inadvertently gets her mixed up with what appears to be another wrong guy. What drew you to play her? I mean, okay, I'm just going to go on the record as we have all dated the wrong person at some point. I have quite the rogues gallery myself. So did you get to like tap into your earlier years where you're like, look back and go, oh God, what was I thinking?
Of course, like you said, we've all been there, some more than others. But, what I loved about this character was, well, first of all, an opportunity to work with Pierce Brosnan, one does not turn down.
No, and by the way, pretty easy on the eyes every day.
I mean, I have to say, I was on set with him every single day. Other than being a consummate gentleman and a complete pro, I would just stare at him sometimes and be like, how am I attracted to a 70-year-old man? But like, he is such a class act and such a smart, caring person. He just draws you right in. So there's that.
Well, also my son went to elementary and junior high school with one of his sons, and he would walk into the like parent stuff and women's heads would snap to the point that we needed a chiropractor at the school to just put everybody's heads back in. I
can't imagine what it must feel like to be Keely, to be his wife, who is gorgeous, but yes. Like, it must be so annoying. I think I asked him that one day. I was like, how annoying, it must be so annoying to be your wife and constantly see women staring at you. But anyway, he's an amazing person. And Philip, the director, also an incredible director. I've been a fan of his since Rabbit Proof Fence, which was a little while ago. And the script, this character is incredibly complicated. I love complicated women. I am a complicated woman. And I think that any character worth playing has a complexity. And this character, she's been dragged down by a shitty ex, and now she's trying to get her life back together again. And the remnants of her past come literally knocking on her door. She's also a taxidermist, which is something I've never played before.
I was going to say,
it's really fascinating.
Was this like a secret skill? I mean, it's creepy. Those little eyes looking at you.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't have a ton of time to do research, so I ended up Zooming with a taxidermist who I reached out to, and she walked me through doing some of the stuff. She had like a bird that she was working on, and it was so weird because you imagine this like gory, like crazy thing, and it's really not like that at all. It's very peaceful and like detail oriented and artsy. And they're usually, from the websites and the people that I met, they're very kind of like artsy people. It was fascinating. And then there's like a whole scientific aspect to it, right? Of like preservation and research and museum taxidermy and that whole thing. So it was a world I was unfamiliar with. It was kind of cool to find out about.
All right, it's a world, that's a new hobby for you?
No thanks. I'm good.
Could you and from this role I have taken, imagine if Daniel Day-Lewis had played it and, he goes so deep, he would be a taxidermist for years.
Yeah.
It's the little creepy eyes,
Yeah, the little glass-eyed things, and they paint them, and they it's really it's something.
Oh, yes, it is. But bless them, they found something they love to do. As I said, you've worked across so many genres, and the movie is a little gory here and there, and you've done all this stuff with special effects. How different is it when you're on set and that the prop guys have made something to look gory versus when you see it on the film?
Yeah, we dispose of a lot of dead bodies on this film.
Yeah.
Which is quite funny. And, I think the film rides it's a lot of genres actually mixed in one. And there's a tiny bit of camp in there as well, when we're dumping bodies in a swamp and having a conversation. And I'm, at one point, I think we're both in, like these rubber overalls, because that's what taxidermists use a lot of the time. And like suddenly, like I'm in a rubber overall dumping a body in a swamp. And so it just happens that my profession lends itself to cleaning up dead bodies. We had a scene in particular where Pierce and I were like on my deck taping up the dead body of a guy that came to like, antagonize me. And I ended up putting a beak of one of the taxidermy birds I was working on through his eye. So they had to create this like eye thing where like the bird was just sticking out of his face. It was so creepy, but so cool, at the same time. And then we had to like wrap him up in like a body bag and tape him up while we're doing the scene. And I'm like, Are you okay in there? Like I'm actually taping up a person that is alive inside a bag while I'm spewing this monologue about travel and life and whatever. It's very bizarre sometimes what we do.
Well, it's so funny though, because you have such a different perspective of it when you're on set versus when you see it, especially like with special effects and stuff. But my son was, by the age of like 7, was so immune to all of that because he'd been on the other side of it. I mean, he was the only kid I knew that at age 7 would be able to watch the first 10 minutes of a Law and Order and tell you if the person was going to be convicted or acquitted.
Right.
You know what I mean? And people would say, doesn't this stuff scare you? He's like, no. You know what I mean? Like
he knows all the tricks behind it. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, so the movie is set in Biloxi and New Orleans, and it looks like a lot of it was shot on location. So what was the actual location? Because Hot and Humid is the hair and makeup team's nightmare.
We luckily were in New Orleans. I think it was like April. So we were just at the beginning, of it getting really, really hot and humid. Towards the end of the shoot, I think we finished in May. It was getting to be unbearable. But I have to say, I completely fell in love with that city. I'm from Brazil. I love hot climate. I love that humidity at the end of the day kind of feel that you can sit outside and have a cocktail. It lends itself to a lot of drinking, which was a bit of a problem because after work, you're like, I'll just have a martini or two every single day. And Pierce definitely enjoys a martini. So it was a lot of fun to get to know the city. And it's such a character in this film that it helped us get into the mood of the piece as well, and the accents and everything. So it was, I'm glad that it was actually local to the place.
Yeah. Well, we can tell that you don't have frizzy hair because otherwise you would have been sobbing hysterically.
I do.
Oh,
that's why we have it back. We have it pulled back for most of the film. It was like, how do we find, I think I had like a chemical straightening happen like right before it. Like, we did things to help for sure.
Because that's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare. It can be a total nightmare. But it was also a character that didn't really care about her looks that much, it was kind of great. This is the least amount of makeup I think I've ever worn for a film. We didn't put any concealer on. I had virtually no foundation on. It was just like eyeliner and like a clear lash thing, and put my hair back, and a gazillion tattoos, so that took forever, but it was a really low maintenance makeup wise. And that was perfect, because in that humidity, there's no way you can maintain like a perfect look.
I'm just going to say I've adored you since you were on Fashion Police, and you have now made me really dislike you. I can be in a movie with no concealer. You know what? End of the interview. See ya.
But she's supposed to look like that.
I know, but when you look like you, I don't leave the house without at least concealer under my eyes. Okay,
you have to be. You know what? It taught me about confidence. To be honest with you, like it. We've been accustomed to this like thing where women have to look a certain way. And I know in my day-to-day life, I've been very blessed with good skin. I absolutely own that. That's my mom. I have nothing to do with that.
And my mom too.
Right. I mean, we're very lucky that way. But I think also it's like for yourself, really important to kind of shed some of that stuff and say, you know what, who cares? I look like a person who's tired. That's okay. I'm tired. I have 3 children. I was up till 11 and I'm up at 6. Like, it's just life. And we've put these unfair expectations on women to like be perfect all the time.
Yeah. Anyway.
You're like, whatever.
Yeah. And here's my therapist number. Could you just say it like that to him so he can keep repeating that to me? So this was James Caan's final film. What was it like working with him? And I'm sure you realize how lucky you were to have that experience, because he was brilliant.
Yeah, he was. He's incredible. I was very nervous meeting him. It was one of my first days on set, actually. And he looked fragile. He was in a wheelchair, and his skin was like translucent almost, and you can, as the day went on, you could see how exhausted he was getting. So we definitely knew we were dealing with someone's potential final project or almost final project. But he was it was an incredible thing to watch him and Pierce in a scene together and be sitting at that table with them. His character suffers from dementia. And to be honest with you, I still don't know if he was in character or actually struggling with the same thing at times. He would flub lines, or maybe he was improvising on purpose. Like, we'll never know. But it really worked, and it was a pleasure to watch.
So we got to talk about Firefly and the spinoff Serenity. Rabid fan base. Rabid. Yeah. Can you believe that?
Yeah, till this day.
Yeah, crazy. Do you still have people who freak out when they see you from that?
Constantly. It's so weird to me. And because they see it and watch it over and over again, they come up with specifics from episodes and things. And I'm like, I shot that 20 years ago. Like, I don't remember. It's crazy. And I am humbled and shocked by it every time. And it's now getting to be generations. And so people will be with their kids and they're like, this is my daughter, Inara. I named her after your character. Besides, me pointing out that they've named their child after a space horror. I am very flattered by it.
When I get over the I'm flattered.
But it's incredible. That's the power of cults, I guess, cult television and culture.
You mentioned you were born in Rio, and your mom is an actress and your father is a journalist. It wasn't surprising in 2019 that you wrote an opinion piece for Newsweek detailing the humanitarian crisis in Venezuela. Were people surprised at how eloquent you were?
To be honest, I didn't get a ton of blowback on that. I do get more about just in general, like having the stance that I have towards immigration and posting about it, which I don't read my comments anyway, because I find that, if you don't care what I'm talking about, just ignore it. I didn't get any blowback, and I didn't get any like snarky comments about it. And if I had, I would either ignore or just fight back, because I think it's BS. People can be a lot of things at the same time.
I agree, because I people are always shocked that I'm smart.
Right.
And
well, you don't get to be where you are just in a bubble,
But who we are very often to the outside world and what we do professionally does not necessarily reflect who we truly are.
I think when people, when I say you don't get to be where you are because you're not smart, because you are smart, but what I guess what I mean is, goes back to like Malcolm Gladwell talks about this a lot. It takes hours of practice and hard work to achieve the things that you want to achieve and to be successful. And that takes a smart person, whether you're talking about street smarts or you're talking about intellectual strengths. People who work hard are smart.
Yes. But I always find that amazing. And again, it goes back to, I think, in a lot of ways, undervaluing women in the entertainment industry. That
it's a very big problem.
Yeah. And not understanding that we're smart.
I love how much attention a woman gets when she writes and directs a film, but a man just wrote and directed a film. A female, like Barbie. Let's talk about Barbie. Greta Gerwig is an incredibly smart, successful woman.
Yeah.
But yeah, and she's been in this industry for a very long time. Why is it surprising that she can make a hit film? You know what I mean? When a man makes a hit film, they just have a hit film, but she has a female-driven hit film. You know what I mean? And I think it's really interesting how we are having this sort of like moment where we think that we're changing Hollywood and changing the industry. I actually think we're just really pointing out how things actually are. I don't know that they're actually going to change.
I agree with you 100%. So you have 3 kids. 2 boys and a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Which is more challenging, being a boy mom or a girl mom? See, I'm a boy mom, so I don't know what it was like to be a girl mom, but the idea of being a girl mom terrifies me.
I think it's both. They're both challenging in a very different way. My boys are physically demanding, and when they get upset, only I can solve their problems, or like comfort them rather. With my girl, she's so smart and so emotionally advanced that I can't pull out the same old stuff. She really requires, I call it being an emotional ninja, because she's just like me. She doesn't want to be vulnerable, but when she finds herself vulnerable, she wants help, but she doesn't want to ask for it, and she doesn't want to take the help. So it creates a very complicated dynamic, and you have to kind of like, figure it out together. So I would say being a girl mom is much more emotionally challenging, whereas being a boy mom is more physically challenging.
How old are your boys?
The oldest is 10 and the youngest is 2, and she's 7. So she's right in the middle.
Yeah. The 10-year-old, get ready. The smell fairy is going to start arriving fairly soon.
We were talking about that this morning.
Oh, the smell fairy, as I like to call it.
We were talking, well, not the smell fairy, but I was like, pretty soon you're not going to be able to get away with not bathing for 3 days. Just saying.
Yeah. And your daughter's going to rule the roost. I'm sure she's already bossy with her brothers.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. But I understand because boys are very physically demanding, and my son's an athlete. So it was really physically demanding. They also, what I've found, just a little knowledge from having been a boy mom for 22 years, boys get grumpy and cranky and don't talk, where a girl you'll know is upset because she'll hurl herself across the bed and sob hysterically when the teenage years come. The boys get very much like, fine.
Right.
They're not fine.
Just bury it.
Yeah, just, and also
the man cave starts coming out. Yeah.
Yeah. So you met your husband, Ben, while you're both working on Gotham. Being a 2-actor family in a relationship can be heaven or hell. Sometimes both. Which is it, and how do you correct either?
It's actually both, truly. A lot of therapy together to figure out how to talk to each other about it, truly. I believe we're in the best possible version of what it could be. I've been in relationships where it hasn't worked. We have this rule where we have to allow the other person to do whatever they want professionally that feeds them, because they will be a better parent and a better partner. And so obviously within reason and within the constraints of our family and what's going to work. Fast Charlie, this movie is an example of that. I had to be in New Orleans for 4 weeks or something shooting. And at the time, the baby was 1. So it was really, really challenging. The kids were in school. They couldn't come with me. They came to visit a few times. And for a moment there, Ben was like, no, like we can't make this work, and it's not like this is a huge studio movie. It's not even for a great paycheck. Like, yeah, and I was like, well, this is a role I really want to play. And so then we had to work it out and figure out how to make it work. And it did. And it was really hard. But it's not, and he would say this too, it's not the same for him, right? It's not the same conversation. He literally can go anywhere and do anything at any point, because if I'm home, everything's okay. Now, if we're both working, obviously he's more limited, but he's also had this amazing, he has an amazing perspective on work in general. And he's been able, he wrote a book this last year, and he's been able to do other things than just act. Because I think he's much more of like, he's a smart guy. He's an alpha male. He's not going to sit around and, being an actor sometimes can feel very, he can infantilize you as a grown ass man, and he has other aspirations. And so it's been really amazing to support each other in like different realms. And let me tell you, being the wife of an author is actually harder than being the wife of an actor.
Oh, because they go in and close the door and work.
Yeah, they've got to work. He's got to write, and he's the only one responsible for it. You know what I mean? And it takes up a lot of space in his brain for not a lot of money. Nobody becomes a millionaire being an author. So, I mean, unless you're really, really lucky, but
right. Unless you're Stephen
it's really
King.
tough. Right. Exactly. But, the kind of writing he's doing is not putting 3 kids through private school.
Got it. And does he let you read? Are you a good editor for him?
Yeah, we definitely share that with each other. I don't, he definitely has to get to a certain point and then to be able to share it with me, but we do collaborate well together. And I think are supportive of each other's work. We give each other ideas. Sometimes you need that sort of outside perspective of somebody who knows you well to be able to like craft something.
Well, Morena, Fast Charlie, now in theaters and on demand. Thank you so much. Always, even if it's few and far between, nice to see you.
You too. Hopefully it won't be another few hundred years.